in that very moment when he hugged me, I knew I had to get divorced. I'm a lovely, so I think I'll just dive in. This is a very uncomfortable topic, but I would like to dive right in because I've been getting many messages about my status and all that. And most of all, again, it's all about creating awareness, empowering each other, and getting knowledge from each other. So my divorce, the truth about my divorce story. Oh my God. Where do I start? So, well, before you get divorced, you have to get married first, right? So when I got married, I personally thought it was for forever. I got married at a very, very, let me say, young age. And yes, out of love, thank God. And both of us were quite young, let me put it that way. My partner, of course, was a bit older than me, but we're both like still very young. So of course we dreamed of like for forever, a forever love, having a family, spending the rest of our lives together, growing all together, great together, basically. And I believe no one gets into marriage like with the intention of getting divorced. I don't know, maybe there's some people who do, but I really don't think so. So that's what happened in my case. Yes, we got married, got 2 beautiful kids, and fast forward, I personally noticed that we were not right for each other, in the sense that with so many other things we're very compatible, but our values or how we looked at life were quite different. And to this day, I still think maybe also age difference had something to do with it, although I still love age difference relationships. I could never date someone my age, but I think that age difference also caused problems. So for us, the main issue was, for me, the top notch was not being able to work. I had this supportive husband that most would look at like, oh my God, that's a dream come true. Yes, it was great, having a husband that supports you financially, emotionally, and in every way. But when you have your own dreams, when you have your own goals, I think I've said that in some video before, it is very, very important when your partner understands your goals, your desires, and why certain things are so important to you. So for us, our marriage basically failed because we failed to agree on certain things that were very, very, very important to me. So in that case, of course, like when you fail to agree on facts, like for example, why I need to work, and your partner's like, but we have everything, but I'm able to finance everything, why do you need to work? And you don't get to see my point of view, it makes things difficult. Did I even ever know that I was capable of divorce? No. I'd never experienced divorce in my family. My parents are still married, and coming from the African culture, it's not something that we do easily per se, because in the African culture, everyone believes in marriage, remaining intact and all that. So it wasn't something that I had experience about. None of my siblings had been married or divorced or something like that to say that, okay, this give me the, like the direction. So it's not something that I had in my life plan. But as time went by, of course, we talked, most times when a marriage fails, it's because the communication is either not clear or poor. So we did talk, but it was always mainly me saying why I need to do certain things, and my partner saying, why do you really have to do certain things? And then you tell this person, but they're never listening, because anyway, if you had been listening, probably we wouldn't have ended up being divorced. And then of course consider the age. Like I said, we were quite young and I was young, so probably at times I think he never took me seriously. It was never even in his mind that I would take such a drastic move as getting divorced, So one would say, so how did you end up preparing for divorce, or how really did you get divorced? So I remember it like it was yesterday. I had been to Uganda on holiday, and that time I went alone with my kids. It was my choice. Stayed there for, I think there were like 4 weeks or something like that. And when I came back, and my ex-husband came to pick us from the airport, like you hug. And in that very moment when he hugged me, I knew I had to get divorced. And like they say, for us women, by the time a woman divorces you, they've really, really already made up their mind like a long, long time ago. So for me, that's exactly what happened. Like, of course, I had been trying, I was hoping, okay, we're going to find a common ground and solve those small issues, I think the 4 weeks away maybe also gave me respite to look in on our marriage from the outside, to reflect upon everything, to reevaluate about everything, my goals, my values, and things that are important to me, you know. And coming back and him hugging me and me noticing how I feel about him in that very moment was the deal breaker, you know, because there's no way I was going to go back home and then go on pretending to be happy in a marriage that I wasn't happy anymore. So question is, what do you do in such a situation? You have to consider that I was here in Germany, married to a German guy. I'm not yet even 30 years old. You know, I don't have any single family here. Like the only family I had with my children and of course his family, but I don't have any family here. I was a housewife, stay-at-home mom, so I wasn't working. So you would ask yourself, how do you divorce? Where do you start? You know? And looking at my entire journey, that's why I always believe and still live by the motto, you are the sculptor of your destiny. And I believe there's nothing impossible in this world. You must want it enough. You must be ready to take the risks and even to go through the uncomfortable situations to get to where you want to get. So honestly, if you're watching this video, probably thinking, and I'll tell you how people reacted to it too. So I was like, where do I start? You know, I don't remember if it was a Monday, I think it was like a Tuesday. I bring my older son to kindergarten, that is nursery school. My husband is at the office because he's self-employed. And I'm like, I want to get out of here. I don't want to stay in this marriage, but where do I go? How do I start? Me, my soft life ambassador, I didn't even know how do they look for an apartment? Like, what do I do? So, interesting that I can now laugh about it. So I remember what I did is, I packed 2 suitcases, if I remember very, very well. One suitcase with my staff clothes. That's all I took with me, clothes and shoes and my handbag and whatever. And then 1 suitcase for the kids, you know. So I didn't even take everything for kids. So I put those things in my car, get my young son, put him in the car, pick my other son from kindergarten. And the first thing I did was like, okay, where can I go? Who can I talk to? Where can I go for a while as I look for an apartment? So I called my sister-in-law, yes, his sister, because like I said, I didn't have any family here, but I was lucky that I had a good relationship with his family or his siblings. So I called his younger sister. She's a very, very amazing woman, and tell her, I'm coming to your place, I want to divorce. And immediately she said, oh, what's wrong? Just come over, we'll talk when you're here. So I come over, she probably thought maybe, I don't know, we had fought or something. And there I was with 2 suitcases and we chatted and she was like, so you sure about it? Yes, and why? And I told her. And up to this day, I appreciate her so much for having respected my decision, having not given me the impression of, oh, are you wild? Are you crazy? Why do you even have to divorce my brother? No, she really, really took my argument or my reason seriously, and she gave me the impression she really understood where I was coming from and she was ready to respect my decision, much as of course she loves her brother and she wouldn't want that for him and for the kids, but she really respected my decision, and I appreciate that really, really a lot. And I'll tell you why that is important when I come to the reactions, you know. So the reactions actually would be the best thing that I go direct into. How did people react to my decision to get divorced? Now this is the wild part. When I decided to get divorced, I didn't tell anyone in my family. I didn't call my mom. I didn't call my siblings to tell them, oh, look, I'm divorcing, honestly. Like I've always said in my videos, I'm an introverted person, but I'm also someone who likes solving my own shit. Let me put it that way, you know? So I always go through things by myself before involving anyone. I feel I'm the one who knows my situation best. And like I was telling people after reactions, I was like, I was the one in the marriage. So I was the one who knows best what's best for me and the kids. So I didn't tell anyone. I first moved out. I think I got to tell my family like 3-4 days later after moving out. And then of course my husband came home in the evening, called, oh, I think I sent him a message. I told him I've moved out, so he didn't take me seriously. He came home and realized, okay, she's moved out, and then called the sister, requested to come and have a chat with me. We had a chat, and yeah, tears and everything, and I was like, I'm not coming back. I want out for good, you know. So I stayed at my sister-in-law's place, and now of course telling my family, my parents, I don't remember if I told any friends. Not really, no. I don't even have friends anyway. So yeah, I told my parents and my siblings, and then of course the reactions were very, very mixed. Like I said, my sister-in-law understood that. We had even a woman-to-woman conversation where she also confided in me about certain things. I really, really respect her a lot. And then of course we had our friend women groups, you know, like what we call Stammtisch in Deutschland. You know, they were all worried and they talked to me. I had some people judging. I had some people like, oh, what really does she want? She has an amazing marriage. They're living a luxury life. As you know, my husband and I still call him my husband. Interesting. My ex-husband and I are travel lovers. Like, we really, really love traveling, and we really traveled quite a lot even when we're still together. And some people, that's when you get to know maybe people who are like jealous or envious, you know. So people are like, oh, here she is living a luxurious life. She has everything. They're traveling literally every day, and she's divorcing. What does she even want, you know? So I remember one person asked me, a mature woman at that time, she was already like in her 40s and I was not yet even 30. And I was like, no, if you think he's great, you can have him. You know, like, I was really, really mad at her. So yeah, those are the reactions. And of course, looking back at the African culture, I remember some people telling me, oh my God, don't talk about it, keep it a secret. I'm like, what the heck? You know, when I got married, it was public. So why should I keep it a secret that I'm divorced? For me, it didn't feel like something to be shamed about. It was rather something to feel sad about. You know, like I said, a broken dream, a broken marriage. No one gets married to get divorced. So for me, it was a sad situation, but nothing to be embarrassed about. And that is very important, because I know very many women stay in marriages because they're embarrassed. And mine wasn't even, you know, like some people stay in very abusive marriages, physically and in every sense, but because they're ashamed of what people are going to say. And even the time when I divorced, the 3 couples that divorced later after I divorced, and it later came out, we laughed about that with my ex-husband, because I was like, oh my God, what an avalanche she caused here in this area. You know, I talked to the ladies and they had also their issues, but they had not had the courage to do that. So when I left, I remember them telling me, oh my God, imagine you are in a foreign country, you have no family here, you have no job, but you take a stand and you're like, this is not the life I want. And here we are, we have our families here, we are employed, we are independent women, but we don't have the stamina to make that decision. But when I left, probably it gave them the strength to be like, if she can start over, we can start over. That's what my ex-husband said, like when we were joking about it. And they divorced. So I stayed at my sister-in-law's, I think like for 2-3 weeks. And then lucky enough, Easter was close by. So like I said, we used to travel quite a lot. So every Easter, of course, we were definitely traveling, you know. So when Easter came, I was like, I think I need to go away, like do a small holiday, take a break, because I've not yet found an apartment. And I personally was not sure if I wanted to stay in the same area with my ex-husband, because like I said, we didn't hate each other. Most of all, he was even still in love with me. So I was like, this is going to be very tricky, staying so close to your ex, who is still crazy about you, who is still very determined to have you back. I knew it was going to be very, very difficult. And then having everyone that I know around me, so I was like, I needed a neutral place where I wouldn't get constant feedback of maybe you should give it a second try. And I always find that very, very wrong. If someone makes a decision to divorce, to get out of a relationship, you have to respect that. You never know why they're doing that. You never know if it is actually saving their lives. Trying to convince someone who's divorced or left a marriage to get back is the worst advice you can give to someone. It could cost them their lives. So I tell my sister-in-law, my ex-husband, you know, I'm going to go to this place. This is a place we had been before, like we really liked it. So I was like, I'm going to go there for the Easter holiday. So I did that. But funny enough, when I did that, of course, like I said, I divorced with only 2 suitcases. So I put my suitcases in the car. Now, I actually remember my ex-husband drove us here to that area. So he drove us and went back home. And of course, I stayed with my family car and all that. When I got to this place, it was like a light bulb moment. I was like, actually, this is perfect. You should stay here. You should look for an apartment here. And of course, I was thinking, so how am I going to tell my ex-husband about that and his family, that I'm staying here with the kids and all that? But then when I re-evaluated everything, I was like, this is the best decision. This is the only way we can both heal. This is the only way we can both move on. This is the only way we can avoid a divorce drama. As you all know, divorce is never rosy. Mine wasn't either. I'm going to continue and delve in. And I can totally understand, because once people divorce, there's lots of emotions. There's lots of disappointments. Some feel betrayed, especially if someone still loves you. Like my ex-husband didn't see it coming. I remember in our talk when I had just left, he didn't seem to fathom what had really gone wrong. For him, in his eyes, everything was okay. You know, and that's the interesting bit about divorce. And it also shows the difference in, I would say, behavior and understanding of things between women and men. And that's why they say women are from Mars and men are from I don't know where. Because I was like, how could he even think that our marriage was perfect? But for him, it seemed that way. He didn't see like any serious problem. So yeah, basically I decided to stay in this area where I'd actually come to spend Easter holidays with my kids. So when my ex was asking when he should come pick us up, I was like, you don't have to, I'm going to stay here. And of course it was a mess. As you can imagine, we're freshly separated, not yet even officially divorced. He's worried about losing his kids. He was very worried that maybe I'm even going to relocate to Africa or move to another country and he wouldn't be able to see his kids at all, even that often. But for me, it was very clear from the start. My children have two parents and they have a right to both parents. And it is something that I would never even consider to deny him his parental rights. It was out of the question for me, you know. And that is something I'll be talking about probably in our next video about co-parenting. So of course we had our arguments on the phone and I told him, whatever you do, you can do whatever you choose to do. I'm definitely staying here. And of course there was the argument of, you know, the distance and all that. But the good thing is I was very, very prepared. I was very, very conversant with the law. And that is something I always tell most of my clients, because I've had several clients in such situations. You really, really have to be conversant with the law. You really, really have to be confident. You really, really have to be steadfast in your decisions, because a divorce is tough. It's really, really tough, you know. It is possible that your partner turns into someone you can't even recognize, but I also totally understand that, especially because it has to do with emotions, it has to do with love. And in most cases, when two people divorce, there's always one person that is still in love, that is still hanging on to that marriage. So that was the case in our divorce journey. I would never talk about divorce without talking about how it affects children, especially a divorce that involves children is the toughest. So the time I divorced, my kids were really a bit little, but for me it was important. Like I've always told you on my socials, communication. I did communicate with my kids. I did prepare my kids in a way, in a very gentle way, appropriate with their age, to understand why I was leaving their dad, to understand that we're not living with their dad anymore. I made it a continuous process, you know, all the entire time. Like the beginnings of the separation are very, very rough. There's a lot of anger. I always communicated with my kids in a very, very gentle and sensitive way for them to not feel affected, for them to understand that no matter what happens, we'll always be a family. The dad will always be their dad. It was very, very important to me to make sure that they never get any bad feelings about the dad. I'll try and keep everything factual, but also very sensitive. You don't have to take kids all the things, especially if you're still in this anger process, you're still in the fighting process. You don't have to burden the kids with such things, because anyway, you move over from them, but the kids will live with the trauma forever. So for me, I prepared my kids. I always communicated. Of course, they asked questions. When I look back and ask myself if this divorce really affected my kids, and I do talk to my kids now that they're much older, my conclusion is still better to divorce than to stay in a marriage where you're unhappy. I believe staying in a marriage that is not working negatively impacts the children for their entire life more than a divorce does, especially if it is a divorce that ends up working out smoothly and you both have shared custody, and the dad is in their lives and the mom is in their lives. Then it is much better than staying in a marriage that is not working. Did it affect them? I believe so. Like when I have conversation with my kids, you notice that they hope that when they get married at one time, their marriages will work out better. So of course that is a sign that they got some kind of trauma from the divorce. My little boy, when he was still little, I noticed that he had separation anxiety, not like deep, but I could tell. Probably because after separating from their dad, they always had the fear, what if our mom is also not there? So definitely a divorce impacts children in one way or another. For some kids deeply, for some kids not. It depends on how you prepare them, it depends on the kind of relationship you have, but definitely if you divorce and have kids and you notice that it's really affecting them, try and get help, try and get services. Here in Germany, we have them for free, for example. The child protection services, they offer such services open for them. We have organizations like Caritas and Diaconia, you'll get help for the kids. And it makes sense, it's not something you should be ashamed of or worried about. It's always in the best interest for the kids, because what we go through as children, a video that I'll do one day, how our childhoods affect our adulthood, you know, it's very, very important. So for me, I would say that's how it affected my kids. How did my divorce affect me as a human being? How did it affect my perspective on marriage and love? I would start by saying it helped me grow up. It helped me mature. Like I said, I got married very young. I divorced very young, you know, not yet even 30 years of age. So everything happened very, very fast. But for me, the lesson I learned out of it would be, might sound negative, but I don't think it's realistic anymore to believe that love or a marriage can last for forever. It can, in some cases, with lots of resilience, with lots of compromise, with lots of communication. But one thing that I've learned is what I always thought and dreamt of, oh, a marriage can last forever and it's always going to be only roses and love and giggles and hugs and all that. That dream died. That fantasy died. Do I still believe in love? Absolutely. I am a hopeful romantic. I could never live without love. I believe in love, absolutely. But it still changed the way I love. It still changed. Like, I wouldn't say I'm still the same innocent lover that I was when I married my ex-husband. Of course, when you go through a divorce, you change. My perspective has also changed in a way that I'm scared to get married, to be honest. Like, it's not something I think about and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to get married. When I play the scenarios in my head, it's always something like, I would prefer to be with someone. He stays in his own home. I stay in my own home. We don't have to get married on paper, but we spend the rest of our lives together. That is for me the most comfortable version. And of course, when I look deeply into it, it's because I'm scared. I'm scared of all the drama that comes with divorce. I'm scared of having to create a home again and then having it break up once more, because I know that is very, very possible. Like I said, I don't believe that most marriages can hold forever or happily forever, because definitely I'm not someone who's going to stay in an unhappy marriage no matter how much I love the person. So for me, in my case, it's possible to get divorced the third, the fourth, and even the fifth time. And to avoid that, that's why I think I don't want per se to get married. I want to have a good relationship, preferably separate spaces, you know, because for the time that I've been single, like not married, from the time I divorced, I find it very comfortable. I find it a very good atmosphere for me being in my own house and not living with a partner. You know, it's more comfortable having a partner when I need him there or visiting him, but not having him 24/7 in the same home with me. I guess because I'm a freedom-loving person, I love my space, and my children and I are a very perfect, let me say, group. You know, we're so perfect with each other. I can't imagine having someone get into this clique and fit in. But yes, it doesn't mean I'll never get married. Maybe I'll never, I don't know, because to be honest, it's not something that I dream about or keeps me awake at night. No. So yeah, that's where I stand with marriage, and that's how it changed my perspective. But of course, I still believe in love. I still believe that marriages can work. But what I don't believe in is staying in a marriage just for the sake of, you know, holding that title. They've been married for 20 years. I think I did a short video about that where I was like, when people say, oh, we've been married for 20 years, 30 years, my question is always, out of those 20 years, how many years have you been happily married? And for most people, you'll find, oh, it's been maybe 5 years if they're lucky, and the rest of the years they just hate each other. I saw a clip recently on social media. I'll be doing, I think, a live video about that, where the guy is like, Do you know how many or how often I hate my wife and want to divorce her? And they recently celebrated, I think, their 10th anniversary, and I'm like, oh my God, why would you stay with someone that long and even publicly announce how you don't like them? It's sick, it's weird, you know? So exactly my perspective. That's why I could never stay in a marriage just for the sake of we are married. One thing that is also very important to talk about when I talk about my divorce, being that my channel and my socials are all about social empowerment, I would like to share my lessons that I learned about divorce. For anyone that is going through that right now, or probably might go through that in the future, I believe these are things one has to keep in mind. So I'm going to start with divorce in general. First, for me, definitely, if something is not working out, if you've tried everything, if you've tried therapy, that is if your partner is willing, because it takes two for a marriage to work, divorce. Never push something that is not working. We've had people lose their lives because of forcing something that is not working. Of course, make a plan like I did. In my case, I didn't really have a plan, but well, I had like 2 years of thinking about it, of like, you know, I want out. So yeah, I was lucky to have a good sister-in-law that's like, okay, you can come to my place for a while, but there are always many other ways also you could do it, through a friend, or even just look for an apartment before you think of moving out. Maybe I should have done that before. But definitely, that is the lesson that I learned. Depending on the reason why you're divorcing, if you're in a toxic marriage, definitely don't announce to your husband, I'm going to divorce you. I didn't announce to my husband either, not because he was toxic and I thought he was going to kill me or something like that, but I was not sure how he'd react. And let me assure you, when he found out, like I said, a divorce is never rosy. Of course, he was angry, very angry. So I feel it's best never to announce it, because you never know how your partner is going to react and what could that could cause, especially if the kids in the picture. I didn't want to put my kids in a situation where we're shouting and screaming with each other. So I wanted to do it at a safer distance, you know. Definitely, before you get divorced, research, get conversant with the law. If you can afford, get a lawyer. Not always necessary, but yes, it would help to get information. So for me, I was very well informed. Talking about divorce in the diaspora, again, with the laws. Get conversant with the laws. Ask yourself all questions. What could happen? We're talking child custody. We're talking of, do you even have a right to leave that area to move out to another area? Reflect upon your partner's character. Are they dangerous? Are you in a dangerous situation? Do you need to go far away from them? Do you need to let the police know? Do you need to let child protection services know? How are you going to go about several things? You really have to brainstorm before taking that step, especially if you're living in the diaspora. Of course, if you're living in the diaspora like Germany, you have big opportunities. If maybe you don't have the financial muscle to start everything, we all have very good services here, social services, that will help you find your footing at the beginning until you sort yourself out. So definitely always think about it. Don't make hasty decisions, because you might end up in trouble, especially if you're living a very toxic or a very abusive marriage. What other lesson did I learn out? Yes, if you're divorcing and the kids involved, please try to put your ego aside. Try to put your emotions aside. When it comes to children, never try to badmouth the other parent, because at the end of the day, it is their parent. Kids love their parents, no matter what they're going through, no matter how unhappy or terrible husbands or wives they are. So once you're going through a divorce, never try to make the other parent bad. Actually, in the end, the children will resent you. So don't do that, and I feel it's not fair. Because for me, what I've learned is, someone might not be a good husband or a good wife, but it doesn't mean they're a terrible parent. My ex-husband is an amazing parent, you know. So imagine if I'd made his kids hate him, it would have been my loss, our loss, my kids' loss, you know. So try to avoid that. Oh my God. Before I even end this video, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to join our family, support us. And of course, always hit the comment section. Share your experiences with me if you've been through a divorce or if you're in such a situation. And right now, I'm currently calling out for people that would like to feature on our channel as guests, share their stories, have a conversation with us. Please just DM me anywhere, my socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Threads, under the name Rose Hoff, just like my YouTube name, without an S. Thank you so much. So as I conclude, before you divorce, make a plan, reflect. If you have a friend that you trust, talk to them about it. If you don't, or if you feel it's dangerous, still do it by yourself. But my complete takeoff from this is, never stay too long, you know. And I don't want to go into that, which I'll be doing in the next video. Just prepare yourself. No matter how nice or kind you think your partner is, a divorce is always messy at the beginning. Like in our case, it was messy at the beginning. Like there's lots of anger, there's lots of in my case it was more of my partner having so many hopes that we'd get back together, because like I said, for him, he didn't understand why we're divorcing. So he really tried so hard to get me back, buying me flowers and all that. For me, it was very irritating because I'd moved on, you know, and I really wanted him to respect that boundary. But it was difficult for him, you know. So we'll be talking about boundaries also when I get to the co-parenting video. So definitely I had to set boundaries. I wouldn't advise you to do the back and forth. I've seen people divorce and get back and divorce and get back like 4 times. Don't do that. It's never necessary. By the time you make a decision to divorce, then there's definitely something wrong. Unless that issue is truly resolved, then don't think about doing the back and forth. It could be dangerous. It could actually even end fatal, depending on the partner that you're playing this game of back and forth with. So definitely keep that in mind. And what I can say as a beacon of hope, considering this is a social empowerment channel, a divorce works out in the end. And if and when you're lucky, you can actually end up being good friends. My current situation is my ex-partner is a good parent. We're greatly co-parenting. He's my friend. He's my family here, to be honest. I mean, he's the first phone call when I'm sick. He's my first phone call when something's going wrong. He's my first phone call when something great is happening, you know. So definitely, divorce doesn't mean being enemies, especially if kids are involved. It would be great if you end up being even good acquaintances, because at the end of the day, you're always going to be family. You're always going to be connected for the rest of your families. So in my case, I'm thankful and grateful that my ex-partner is my family and we are happily co-parenting. Catch you in the next video where we're going to be talking about co-parenting, but otherwise, let's join in the comment section and have more conversations and get to hear your experiences and what your take on divorce is. Until next time, my loves, thank you so much.